Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. I have got a very special guest. It's wAesoph. Welcome,
Hello.
man.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful to get to do this, man. Before I poison you, and I know you've been watching everybody, so I know you know this question. So you're already poisoned, but how do you describe yourself and what you do?
I would say I'm a Zerg streamer who dabbles a little bit in YouTube and a little bit in casting and a little bit in Galaxy Brain build orders and off racing. That's what I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. Lots to talk about here. And let's, not get too ahead of myself here. What level do you play the game of StarCraft 2 at?
I'm like I'm like one of the GM gatekeepers, I'd say. I get promoted and demoted out of that league probably 5 times a week. If
Okay.
I'm playing on my main account enough to get the 30 games, yeah.
So you're right in the border, like you're border patrol for GM.
Yeah, like 51, 5200 level usually.
Okay, very cool, very cool. So what first kind of drew you into this world of playing StarCraft?
Oh. Uh well, okay, so back in the beta, my brother showed me a picture of the beta. I was aware of Brood War, but
Hmm.
I was the guy who only played Helm's Deep, like UMS map.
Okay.
So I didn't really play the campaign or like any of the multiplayer stuff. So my brother showed me a picture of like StarCraft 2. So then I immediately started watching everything you could watch.
Hmm.
Like HD was already casting, Husky was already casting, and it was like insane. Uh and then when the game came out, I was actually in Norway with my buddy, and we went to the store and we bought the game and we sat down and we would take turns playing,
Hmm.
one mission each, and we worked our way through the whole campaign.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it went. I mean, I was like a very casual player for like probably like 7 years, and it wasn't until a few years ago that I started really playing multiplayer.
Hmm.
So I was just like a campaign player, co-op, team games,
Yeah. Interesting. So I guess that means you would have started kind of getting competitive sometime like after the launch of Legacy of the Void then.
Yeah, probably like a year after,
Okay.
because I was trying pretty hard in Heart of the Swarm. I started trying pretty hard and then I hated the game because it was the Swarm host meta,
Yeah.
and it actually made me quit and I left for like almost 2 years. And
Wow.
then when
Okay.
I came back, I went hardcore right away.
Okay, interesting. So you kind of dabbled in playing competitively, hated the meta, as did many people at the time, took a break, came back, and then just dropped the hammer on improvement and skill growth.
Yeah, because before I came back, I had been watching again and I was like, this game is insane. Like it's
Yeah.
so good. I think Legacy is the best
Hmm.
iteration of the game.
Yeah, same. I definitely agree
Yeah.
with you there. And it's not a perfect game, but damn, is it good.
Mhm.
Very cool. So, I mean, yeah, I definitely want to talk a lot today about your strategy around skill growth and improvement because, man, I've definitely made that a big part of what I'm trying to do. And holy shit, you have just left me in the dust with that, talking about, when you really started trying to get serious about it. How much time would you say, either today or maybe I'm even more interested to hear on your road to GM, like how much time were you putting in to trying to get better?
I think from when I came back to the first time I touched GM, I was playing 2 hours a day. Like, it was almost like prescribed. I felt
Hmm.
like I had to play 2 hours a day, and it felt like that was enough to improve every day, and I wasn't like, and even today when I stream, once I hit hour 3, I can feel that I'm playing worse and I'm burning out, but,
Hmm.
and then I played even more, once I hit GM shortly after I signed with the team, and then I played even more
Yeah.
for a while,
Uh-huh.
and then yeah.
Very cool. And okay, was that Scythe then that you're talking
Yeah,
about?
that was
Okay.
Scythe, yeah.
Nice. Very cool. Okay, so boy, there's so much to talk about. And I'm already like, man, I have too many notes I'm gonna have to cut. Let's see. Okay, let's just let's do top level and then we'll drill down. So
Okay.
um you described yourself as kind of, a streamer first sort of a person, right? Just in terms of the biases of the answer you gave me, right? I'm gonna pick at that answer now. So what made you get into the streaming world?
Uh, that's something I've wanted to do forever.
Mhm.
Like since ever since I really knew it was a thing.
Mhm.
The streaming slash YouTube. This doesn't really matter which.
Yeah.
I wanted to do both.
Mhm.
And it's something that I even told I remember telling people when I was like 19 that I
Mhm.
wanted to do it, and
Yeah.
they were confused because they thought I was lying because they'd never heard that from me before.
Yeah.
And then I didn't do anything about it for years.
Mm. Mhm.
So they were like, "Why did you ever say that?" And I was like, "Low key, it is something I actually wanted to do. I just didn't have the time or whatever." And then years ago, I actually bought like a Yeti and a better computer, and
Mhm.
I still didn't do anything about it. It's just still I don't know why I had such a hard time getting started.
Mhm.
I actually had a YouTube channel back in the day for Call of Duty
Mhm.
that got a few hundred subscribers, and I deleted it. Like I had a couple false starts.
Yeah, sure.
And then what really gave me the opportunity to get started for real was I was graduating university,
Mhm.
so I was gonna have more time, and I was like uh, wanted to treat it kind of like a gap year,
Okay, yeah.
like before I get a real job. And then the pandemic hit halfway through my last semester, and
Uh-huh.
it's like I couldn't get a job if I wanted to.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I was gonna do the stream.
Mhm.
Yeah, there was like a huge like decision making process for me. I had I remember it was like Christmas right before I started streaming, and I was going into my last semester, and it was like a big like crossroads. And whenever I need to, I've only done this maybe 3 times in my life. Whenever I need to make a huge decision, I have like a whole system, like a point system
Yeah.
that I use to make the decision, where I write out every possible outcome, and then I write like the pros and cons, and then I
Mhm.
give them all point values, and then based on and then I have a bunch of subcategories for which each pro and con falls into, and each
Yeah.
subcategory has a weight, like a
Mhm.
multiplier
Yeah.
of how much it's going to be worth.
Mhm.
And then I add up the scores, and whichever has the highest score is the one that I do.
Yeah.
And streaming like tied with like it was like sales jobs.
Mhm.
And the thing with streaming was like the all the pros were like lifestyle based.
Mm.
And then with the sales job, it was like you can make a lot of money right away and pay off your
Sure.
student debts. And that was all the pros for that one.
Mhm.
So I did have to make a decision there because they almost like perfectly tied. And I was like,
Wow.
I don't want to sell my soul, even though like my analytics tell me I should.
Right, right, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Interesting. So, yeah, I mean, you're clearly like a very sort of methodical, thoughtful dude, and I think that definitely plays well into the kinds of interviews that I have fun with, doing and learning about, what makes you tick and stuff. So this is going to be a blast, man. I'm already hyped.
Nice.
So, all right, let's see. So streaming was this daunting thing for you. It seems like in ways that maybe almost were kind of squirmy and hard for you to define, right? You're like, I know I want to do it, and I don't quite know why I'm not doing it, but I know that I'm not doing it. Was that like even hard to kind of navigate at that point?
Yeah, it was weeks and weeks of like upset stomach over the
Wow.
entire holidays
Yeah.
because it's exactly what I wanted to do. And I can tell you why I wasn't doing it. It's because it would feel irresponsible. Is
Yeah.
essentially like you have all of these like preconceptions in your head of how you're supposed to direct your life. You know, you
Hmm.
graduate high school, you go to university, or you get a job. You go to
Right.
university, you go to grad school, and then you get a job. And it's like that's just what you do.
Hmm.
And if you do anything else, if it doesn't work out, you fucked up, and it's like you
Mm.
shouldn't have done that. So
Hmm. Hmm.
that's what I was like so concerned about. So honestly, like even once I had made the decision and this is like part of the strategy is like once you make the decision, you start telling people you're going to do it
Mm.
just to see how it feels.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even then I was telling people and I was like, it doesn't feel amazing. I
Mm.
still feel guilty. And then the pandemic happened, and it was like most of the guilt just went away.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
a weird like blessing in disguise. It was, mostly negative, but it did have that one positive. It's like all the jobs that I was looking at anyways all just disappeared.
Hmm.
I lost
Hmm.
the job I had, and all
Mm.
my job prospects left. So it's
Yeah.
like I can sit around or I can stream. So
Right. Yeah. Makes sense. I mean, you're locked down anyway. You might as well, find something productive to do in your room
yeah,
because you're not
yeah,
leaving.
yeah.
Wow, man. That's interesting. I feel like you're probably the first person I've heard whose sort of narrative arc of like streaming and StarCraft were directly affected. I mean, obviously we're all affected, but this
Mhm.
like full on like altered your trajectory a little bit, which is really fascinating.
Yeah, I
So
might not have done it, even though I was telling people and it was the decision I had made. I
mhm,
might have only given it a month,
right,
and then
yeah,
just the guilt would have just I was like, "Look at all these jobs. All my friends are getting jobs."
mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, totally. So by now your degree's finished, you've graduated, right?
Mhm.
What did you study?
I did international relations, so
Okay,
it's
interesting.
almost exactly it's like theoretical political science, essentially.
Mhm,
Like, it's not like the structures of governments, it's more like, what causes war, like, how do they construct, like, international policy, stuff like that.
mhm, mhm. And so then you kind of talked about this sort of decision making matrix, right? It's like, am I going to
Mhm.
stream? Am I going to do a sales job? Presumably there were other things in there that
Yeah.
got beat by those two things. So did you essentially like graduate and look at this field that you obviously care a lot about and wanted to study and go, I could do that, or I can go into sales and just make a bunch of money? Did you kind of have that thing as well?
Yeah, funny enough, I think there was, like, 12 scenarios there, like,
Oh
4 of
wow.
them were different types of grad school, and then there
Hmm.
was a bunch of different jobs and streaming and stuff.
Hmm.
Um, the ones related to my degree were pretty low, all of
Mm.
them.
Hmm.
And then so, like, the idea with the sales job was because I had a friend who did that. I think he's still doing it.
Hmm.
Is like you make a ton of money, you hate it, but you pay off your student debt and you get a down payment for like a condo or something pretty
Hmm.
quick.
Hmm.
And then you do what you want.
Yeah.
So you
Hmm.
kind of like get that monkey off your back really quick while you're
Yep.
young. And you like it was the job he does is like commission based. So
Hmm.
if you put in the time, like the best salesmen make a ton of money. I mean, part of
Mm.
that one too is I'm like naturally pretty shy, so I don't think I would have been very good at it. I don't think I would have made the big bucks. So I'm glad I didn't do it. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Interesting. So yeah, I was kind of wondering about that because yeah, I feel like and totally generalizing here, like it's very much like giving power to a stereotype, which I hate, but like feels like, even amongst streamers, right? When I think of StarCraft people or like almost any streamer, I mean, maybe there's categories where I don't think this holds, but like feels like, more introverted, likes to hang out in their room, doesn't necessarily enjoy talking face to face, um just definitely different things like that. Yeah, so I'm glad you said that because I was wondering, I'm like, man, am I just totally wrong about this? Like, you know, but okay, so this would have been a kind of thing where you would have been stretching a bit outside of your comfort zone to do it, but it's because the economic incentive is there.
oh yeah, the sales thing, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay, that makes
That's all it would
sense.
have been. Is pure,
Interesting.
yeah, pure money.
Yeah, 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 makes sense. So okay, then with streaming, is the endeavor here to be able to do it full time? Is it like reevaluate after the pandemic? What's kind of like the path that you feel you're on with that?
Yeah, the intention from the beginning was always to make it my job
Hmm.
eventually, which I feel like is a different approach than I've heard a lot of people where it's like it's my and the pandemic kind of helped there in the
Hmm.
sense that like most people come at it from it's my hobby and then I would love to do it full time one day, but they have to keep up their job while they're doing it. I dove into it full time with 0 viewers and then I did it full time. It's not until recently that I actually got a job that I can like supplement my income with.
Hmm.
But otherwise, yeah, the intention was always to do this and like get to a point where I can support myself with it. And that's still where I'd like to get to eventually.
Hmm. Makes sense. So you're kind of doing the two jobs thing, which I've definitely heard other people either talk about doing that currently or having had to do that in the past. Are you devoting like a big chunk of time to both? Then are you like full time with the sort of like day job and then full time streaming, or how are you kind of approaching that?
It's like the day job's like halftime, so it's perfect. I mean, I'm still able to easily stream. Like 30 hours would be a breeze without burning myself out.
Hmm.
I've been aiming for 35. I try to do 5 hours a day every day.
Hmm.
So like I think I can still keep it up. Honestly, I just started the job. So
Okay.
like this last week was the first week. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know how much I'm going to be able to stream, but I
Sure.
think 30, 20 should be like pretty doable
Hmm.
considering the world's still closed. It's not like I'm spending times doing other things.
Right. Yeah. Makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah, it's interesting. What I've heard from other people, and I think this is probably true in my own experience too, is like that new job thing, even if it's not like starting a job coming from not working, like even if you change jobs, it feels like it hits a little harder that first like couple weeks, maybe first month. And then you're kind of like, all right, I'm acclimated to this. It's almost like when you start a semester, almost, I feel like you're just like extra tired, stuff. Oh, I gotta like get back into gear or whatever. And then it's like you start to realize, oh, okay, I do have these free time hours and it is possible to kind of still do this. Like, and you're right. It's interesting that you do kind of still have the pandemic edge a little bit, where it's like
Hmm.
no commute time. It's a little nice, save a half an hour here and there, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I got kind of lucky with with this job in the sense that it's working for an esports company that hosts tournaments. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like something I already know I'm going to enjoy,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a position that's a little bit lower than, like, I've done events work is like the main thing I've done in my life, all
Mm-hmm.
my work experience. So like it's a little bit lower than what I'm used to. So I feel like hopefully I won't get hit so hard because I already know how to do it, and
Mm-hmm.
it's something that I enjoy. So fingers crossed on that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. I remember hearing you kind of talk about this on stream. I don't know, maybe earlier this week. And yeah, very cool. Like, definitely the kind of thing where you're in an industry that you really care about, and there's opportunity there, right? It's like you kind of stick around, feels like, these people go, oh, this guy, he works hard, like, oh, we need somebody to do this like harder thing or more experienced thing, like you're going to be their go-to guy for that, obviously. So yeah, that'll be really neat. Awesome, man. So okay, let's kind of get back into the nitty-gritty of StarCraft, right? We kind of touched on this a little bit, but you do a lot, man. Besides just, serious face ladder, like you're playing random, you're doing team games. And I've seen you like very like almost effortlessly, it looks like to me, be able to wiggle in and out of that through a stream where it's like, I'll watch you like try hard ladder and some guy in chat's like, hey, want to play team games? You're like, yeah, okay, cool. And you'll just like do it. And it's like for me, like I'd be like, no, guy in the chat, I'm trying to work here. Like, what do you, like, I'm trying to shave 2 seconds off of this timing. Like, what do you mean team games? Like, so how do you think about that? Are you able to just like compartmentalize?
Yeah, I think I if I was doing a super try hard stream, I
Mm,
wouldn't let people come in and do that.
mm-hmm,
But I almost feel like team games, anything that isn't specifically Zerg ranked 1v1, which
mm-hmm.
is maybe like 50% of my stream time,
Yeah.
is a break.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's zero stress on my brain.
Yeah.
So if I've been, you know, and it does happen where I'm 30 minutes into a stream and someone says, "Hey, do you want to play 2v2s?" I say, "No,
Mm-hmm.
I'm laddering." But if it's 2 hours in, I mean, I don't mind playing team
Yeah.
games for like half an hour.
Uh-huh.
I need to step back for a second. Like,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So it's more like that thing you said earlier where you hit this point where you're like kind of diminishing returns on ladder. It's like, oh, I'm starting to play a little bit worse. And then it's kind of all bets are off. Like you'll maybe keep laddering or maybe switch to random or maybe do some team games. It's kind of whatever at that point.
Yeah, yeah, essentially, like, once I feel like I'm not playing well, I'm just waiting for an excuse. I'm just waiting for someone to say, "Hey, you wanna play teams?" I'm like, "Oh, I've been waiting for you for 45 minutes."
That's funny, man. That's cool. So it seems like you've definitely built up kind of the community around it, and people know or feel like they can come in and ask, and the streamer's open to it. So that's really neat. Um, do you have issues with that ever in terms of people kind of come up off the street, right, in the Twitch chat? You don't necessarily know them super well. Like, have you ever had anybody talking trash in-game chat in a way that you're like, ooh, I'm uncomfortable, bro. Like I'm streaming right now. Like, have you had issues with that at all?
Yeah, I mean, as far as, like, trash talking goes, uh, if it's too, like, in especially in team games, you know what happens, it's really bad. Some people just spout off, you just block them.
Mm-hmm.
And I have, like, a general, like, no BM policy, like, I don't put up with it,
Mm-hmm.
but I do retaliate sometimes. I was like, I'll defend myself type
Yeah.
thing.
Uh-huh.
But it gets awkward sometimes if the person is like, the certain type of people who are kind of delusional, and you can't logic with them. They're just gonna
Mm-hmm.
be crazy. So like, for example, the other day, someone, I guess they knew who I was. They were a barcode and they were really mad at me and they were
Mm-hmm.
messaging me for like 20 minutes straight. And then I stopped responding and he started listening to the stream and he kept messaging me because I was still talking about him.
Oh man.
So there's like some problematic situations like that.
Hmm.
And I know it's going to happen more and more the more I grow. You
Right.
hear about, I haven't had uh like stream sniping happen to me yet. Like it happens on single games, but you hear about big streamers who get sniped like 10 times in a row. I haven't
Hmm.
had stuff like that happen yet.
Right.
But
Yeah.
yeah, every now and then you run into a guy who's like, I guess that when they know who you are, they really want to like put on a show
Hmm.
and they like watching your reactions. They
Right.
like trying to make you upset. So I always like if I've been getting better at it. At first I used to like it used to get to me, but now it's just like you block them once they get too edgy.
Sure.
But it is good content in the beginning. Especially if you beat them. This most recent guy, like the first minute into the game, he said, "By the way, your strategy's stupid." And then I won like 30 minutes later in like a turtle game.
Yeah.
And then it really set him off. And chat's like, "Yeah."
Right. Yep. Yep.
And
Totally.
then it gets out of hand, and then you just gotta block him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah. I feel like the optimum strategy, right, is you as the streamer have to not care, but then if you win, you let chat celebrate, right? You let them have
Yeah.
their moment because they're rooting for you. Like chat sees you get BM'd and they're like, oh, I hope you annihilate this person. Like they're just sitting there waiting to stick the dagger in, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but it's weird because you can't get like for me, when I'm in that situation, I know chat extra wants me to win. I will never win those games. So I have to like, it's not even like, putting on a show in the way of like, you don't want to give the troll a reaction, blah, 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 which like all of that is valid. And I know streamers do that, whatever. I have to fully method act it or I will fuck up the ladder game. Like I will not win if I'm thinking chat really, really wants the W this time. Like I
Oh
just
yeah.
have to be like, this game is whatever. Like for all I know, this is like M. Canning had a bad day and he's trolling me. You know what I mean? Like the person could be like, it could be parting on a barcode. Like, and it doesn't matter. Like if I lose, because I don't know how good this person is. They might be way better than me. So I can't care. Like I have to not care. But yeah, it's nice to let chat celebrate. And I agree. It's definitely good content, right? Like I guess the way I think about it nowadays is like if my moderators ban somebody for being a jerk, cool. If I am like, I can turn this troll into content, I'll
Yeah.
just do it, right? I got a whole stream deck full of funny overlays I can use against this troll. Like, by all means, come, please. But it's you as the streamer just remembering you have the control, right? And I feel like based on your answer, like you have already figured that out. You got it dialed in, man. So that's fantastic to see because you're right. Everybody hits that point.
Yeah, I'm still super conflicted on it. And
Really?
I don't know if I want to interact at all with the
Mm-hmm.
trolls, and I might just start blocking them. I'm like my biggest like phobia as a streamer is to like have one of those people who feel so wronged that they start like
Ah,
making alts and like their mission is to ruin your stream every day. That's like my phobia
right.
because you're
Yeah.
essentially like you're it's not in your control. It's
Mm,
like I think bans they don't IP ban, right? It only bans the account as far as I
right.
know.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like you're screwed if you create something like that. And I did have one run in months and months and months ago, like 8 months ago,
Mm-hmm.
where he started BMing me first, and then I said like one thing, and then he kept going, but I was streaming. He started watching the stream,
Yeah.
and then he started messaging me because I was laughing about it. I was like, "This
Oh
is hilarious.
gosh.
This guy's."
Yeah.
And he said, "No, I'm actually upset. I'm so mad at you right now." And I was like,
Oh,
"Oh, I don't want you to actually be mad."
right.
And it's hard to toe the line between like they're trolling because they enjoy it or they're actually mad at you.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you push that too far, it's like, so I don't know. I'm still conflicted because it is kind of funny sometimes and it
Right.
is really good content, but you never know what type of person is behind that keyboard. So
Yeah.
I'm still back and forth on it.
I mean, it seems like, you have a good heart about this in the sense that like you're not trying to make anybody feel bad. And I feel like at the end of the day, that part kind of shines through a little bit. And so that ends up like you get a reputation for that, right? Like I've tried to really work on this myself where like people know I'm a big softie. And if I make anybody sad, I'll be sad that I made them sad. Right. And so then it's like I'll laugh about something that happens in a game, or I'll clip some funny moment where like things go catastrophically wrong for my opponent. But like there was an instance of that where it happened, and the guy at the end of the thing like said that he like had watched my book club and whatever. I'm just like, oh God, I'm like a trash person. Like I'm such a villain, dude. And so I feel like if you really kind of cultivate that, like you at least have some kind of a defense where people know you're not a jerk, right? Something funny
Mhm.
happened. It struck you funny. You laughed. You're not trying to bully. Like, I think you'll do all right with this strategy. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, and then, like, on the other end of the spectrum, not even just playing against trolls, like, even going I knew this going into it. Going into streaming, I always knew, like, something I really respected about Neuro was he only ever says positive things about his opponents,
mm,
and then he always gives, like, a well played or, like, well done or whatever at the end.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And, I mean, that's a different thing. My chat knows I don't GG very often, but on the I remember before I was streaming, like, playing against some of my favorite streamers, and then, sometimes you go back and watch the VOD, that's just how it is,
Right.
and
Yeah.
them saying, "This guy is terrible." Like, I'm playing on an alt. They know
Hmm.
who I am, but they don't know they're playing against me,
Yeah.
and they're like, "He's terrible, like, oh, you played so bad." I felt bad, man, as a
Yeah. Yeah.
viewer, and I
Yeah.
was like, "I don't like you as much anymore." So
Hmm.
that's a decision I made as a streamer. I was like, "I don't wanna talk shit about random opponents,"
Hmm.
and it's something I struggle with a lot because it's
Hmm.
like my original competitive game was Halo, and that's like the entire culture is shit talk. Like
Yeah.
as soon as every game ends, you can hear both everyone from the lobby can hear each other, and you're all
Hmm.
just screaming at each other for like a minute straight until the next game is found.
Right. Yeah.
So I still do it. Like probably happens 3 or 4 times a stream where I get very sarcastic and I'm like, "Oh, must be nice." Like doing this strategy so easy to use. Like,
Right. Right. Right.
and then I'm like, I need to pull back.
Mm.
If I'm getting so upset that I can't control it, I should just like do some push-ups or something. I don't know. I need to find a
Mm.
different way to vent during the
Yeah.
stream because I really want to be the guy, eventually want to be the guy who never says bad things about their opponent.
Hmm.
And then there's other streamers who do that, but they're constantly saying bad things about themselves to compensate
Yeah.
because you need to find some way to like figure it out in your head why I lost this game. It's either the
Hmm.
opponent's bad or I'm bad. Like what's the third option? I don't know what Neuro has figured out because he doesn't really do either.
Mm.
So I've watched other streams where the person just constantly says, "Oh, I suck. I'm so bad,"
Right.
and I don't enjoy watching that either.
Yeah.
So that's probably like something I've been working on since the beginning.
Yeah, I feel like it's actually a good thing. This is my bias, right? I feel like it's a good thing to have streamers who are openly struggling with this, right? So like
Yeah,
to hear you say that, right? And then go, oh yeah, Neuro has some magic that he's figured out, and I kind of want that, or I want to figure out my own version of that. Like that's really cool because the Salt Lord on the ladder, right? The guy who's just absolute like shithead mode, just being mean, right? Like there's a spectrum that exists between like Neuro and that guy, right?
yeah,
And you're, in the middle trying to pull more towards the Neuro side, and like that gives that person an example of like, okay, here's a guy who's feeling some of these same emotions of being frustrated with what their opponent's doing. I don't like this strategy. I don't like losing to this strategy, especially. Man. Oh, it's frustrating to play against whatever. I need something to do with that emotion, right? So like it's actually really good like that now we have an interview where you said that, right? People watch this, people watch your stream, they will see the good and bad moments. They will see
yeah.
the push-up experiment or whatever else you try. Like I think that that's really, really good for the game. And I always like have tried to do that too. Like, I'll talk if I'm frustrated with my opponent's build. Like I guess my trick with it is I try to go, I don't like this strategy. This strategy is frustrating. It's like, let me identify the specific thing because it's not like the human at the other end, right? Or at least not in particular, right? You could take 20 different people, and if you swapped them out, I would still be mad because this person is using Mutalisks now, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to chase these assholes around my different bases. It's a pain in the ass, right? Um, so I think like, I don't know, that's my trick to it, but I guess I'm really glad that we have different people with different takes on it because we're all, or at least the good ones, are pushing towards, let's be better, let's be more like Neuro kind of thing. And I do think it helps to have different examples because like not everybody's going to think like Neuro, not everybody's going to think like me or think like you, and the more that's out there, right, it's kind of a good thing. And I also think your Halo example is interesting, where like not every scene is this, right? Like the FGC, shooters, like different genres treat this a little bit differently, and it kind of depends. Like I would argue that there's still a line that you shouldn't cross, right?
Yeah.
But like there's definitely different cultures about it. Like we model ourselves like we're, gentlemen and ladies in like, formal attire playing chess or something. Like
I think it's problematic. I'm not a big fan of that type of
yeah.
culture in StarCraft. Although I'm accepting it and like conforming to it,
Mhm.
like my no BM policy, even off stream, I never BM anybody.
Yeah.
I would feel like it would be good. It would make the game exciting and the pro scene more exciting to have more of that like fiery
Mm.
interactions. And
Yeah.
when that's the norm, when you are like, it's it goes from BM to banter. When that's the norm,
Mm.
you
Mhm.
can easily like yell at someone and tell them they're terrible and like stand over their body every time you kill them or something.
Right.
And then after the game, go get a beer with them because it's the norm
Mm.
and
Yeah.
it's no hurt feelings. It all stays in the game. Whereas in
Mhm.
StarCraft, when it's the norm to be super nice, you could say something as like that's not even that bad and it feels bad because
Mm.
they know they've crossed the line and you know they've crossed the line.
Mhm.
So it's like
Mhm.
I would like to have more like to move the line a little bit in StarCraft. Like
Mm.
probably the biggest frustration in StarCraft that I have as far as like BM goes is in Halo. That I would like to bring from Halo is in Halo when you get in those post game lobbies and someone's yelling at you and calling you terrible. It was super common to challenge them to a 1v1.
Mm.
And it's like, all right, like bring everything out and you play 1v1 on Guardian, first
Yeah.
to 15. And that would be decided. And I made friends from that too. These guys who were
Mhm.
calling me terrible and then would beat the shit out of me. Like I would lose like 15-5. And then we'd go queue together.
Yeah.
And then in StarCraft, it
Huh.
happens all the time. Somebody talks shit and I go 1v1. And they
Yeah.
all go, I don't want to waste my time. Every single time. Maybe two people all time have accepted my challenge.
Mhm.
And that's the 1v1 like grudge match that decides it once it's over. The beef is done is
Yeah.
something I'd really like to happen in StarCraft
Mm.
more. I wish people would walk the walk, but
Yeah, I mean at the end of the day it's content, right? Like and we have proof that you're right? Like anytime we've ever had players who are willing to kind of dip their toe in that, right? I think back to like, you know, uh gifts of parting doing a Jack in the Box middle finger meme, stupid stuff like that, right? Like um people always eat it up. So it's interesting, right? Like we definitely there is a balance in there somewhere where it's like because okay, your story about like the trash talk followed by having a beer after the event, like there's clearly still a mutual respect there, or you're not having beers with the person, right?
right. Yeah.
So it's like, how do you get the banter and the like, I respect you as a human? Like that's a really interesting concept. I would have to think about that more. I feel.
Yeah. I mean I think it's just everything to do with like norms where it's like you consciously like wherever the line is in the scene, like as long as you're not crossing wherever the line is. So
Mm,
if the line is way farther away, you
mm-hmm,
can operate within that area
mm,
and as both parties know that you're still fine after.
mm-hmm.
So the line in StarCraft is just like
Really
anything other
far.
than
Yeah.
GLHF and I love you is BM
Yeah. Yeah.
apparently.
Yeah.
You can't
Interesting.
even like say you can't even ask someone why did you do something because they might take it the wrong way.
Yeah. Makes sense.
You know,
Hmm. Interesting. So okay, shifting gears. Just a fun one that I probably should have asked you sooner. How did you pick your name?
I got a whole story
I want it.
because
Let's
I
have it.
had I had three names before this one.
Uh huh.
So when I first played StarCraft, my name was Ace. That's just because I didn't play a lot of online games growing up. So Ace was my name on everything because I didn't know what unique IDs were,
Mm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got to StarCraft and made my name Ace. Played for a couple years, realized that there's like I think I went on Ranked for the Win or whatever the website was back
Mm-hmm.
then, and I tried to find myself, and there was like 1,000 of us. So I was like, all right, I need a new name.
That ain't gonna work. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was living in Belgium at the time, and I was like, I'm learning French, and so I want a French name.
Mm.
So I'm left-handed. I named myself Gaucher, which means left-handed in
Mm.
French, and then I operated under that name for a few years. Fast forward like 2017, I'm playing in like CSL, and Katz is casting my game, and being the curious cat that he is, he doesn't know what my name means. He doesn't
Yeah.
speak French. He has to look it up. And it just so happens that there's a disease in English called Gaucher's disease that's spelled exactly the same way. And so he thinks I named myself after a disease.
Wow. Brutal.
So I went back and I watched the cast and I heard that and I'm like, I gotta change my name. I
Yep.
can't use. People are gonna think I named myself Goucher.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then so I changed to Willow, which was a nickname I had in high school, WILO, and I
Mhm.
competed with Scythe under that nickname, and it's still more or less my tournament nickname.
Mhm.
And same thing, fast forward like 10 months, I'm competing in like Tespa. Katz is casting my game. He has to look it up. He's got dead air to fill. And apparently Willow in like one region in Mexico or
Oh
something
my god.
means essentially it means like fuckboy, like a player. And I was like, man, come on,
You
give me a
can't win. It's
break.
always cats too.
Yeah. But it's like uh I mean, it's my own fault. I should be looking these things up before I make that my ID.
I
B-
guess, man.
yeah, I don't know.
We got Wikipedia cats over here just ruining your day.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
So
funny.
yeah, so I was like, okay. And then so I landed on wAesoph or wAesoph. I don't know.
Mhm.
Again, we mentioned this before we went live, but
Yeah.
this name was not meant to be pronounced, which was kind of a mistake. But the reason I liked it was my other socials, that was already the name on it,
Mm.
and I wanted to have one name for all my
Mhm.
accounts.
Mhm.
And I didn't know if you could change your name on Twitter and Instagram, and I didn't
Mm.
look it up, but I knew
Mhm.
you could change it on Twitch. So I was like,
Yeah.
that's and the thing I really, really like about it is I dominate the Google results. If you put my name
Mm.
in, it goes Twitch,
Straight to
Instagram,
you.
Twitter,
Yeah.
a bunch of Twitch metric things, and my type racer profile is like on page 2. But but like it's amazing because I had heard a couple years ago, Destiny, the streamer, had an issue where Destiny, the game, was coming out, and all
Mm.
of a sudden they're competing for Google search results.
Yep.
I can't remember which one of them was on page 2. I can't remember if it was him or the game.
Mhm.
But anyways, I was like, I don't want that to happen. I don't want
Right.
to be called Bob and then you try to find me and you can't.
Mhm.
So on the one hand, you have like I've heard people say, I tried to tell my friend to check out your stream, but I didn't know how to spell it, so they couldn't
Mm.
find you. And then
Yeah.
on the other hand, it's like, well, if you do know how to spell it, it's impossible not to find me.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Well, man, I definitely sympathize with the "it was never intended to be pronounced" problem. Holy shit. I haven't actually taken this live yet, but in my Discord, my mods have a channel that only they can see that is specifically designated for phonetically typing out ways people mispronounce my name after receiving a raid. And I'm gonna one day unleash it, but I gotta collect enough. Like I should have done it years ago because there's so many that are lost to time. But
Mhm.
yeah, mine was like similar thing where it's like I was not it was not intended to be a branding thing. I needed a name for a character. The character was an elf in an MMO game, and I knew I needed a lot of vowels in it. And again, never it was a throwaway. It was never intended to be pronounced. And then you're just like, oh shit. People are like, how do I say this? I'm like, I don't know. Like pick the way this person or this person says it. Like good enough.
That's how I feel about it too.
Yeah.
Technically, like it was meant to be pronounced wAesoph, but it doesn't make any sense that the H is silent. So
You're
everyone calls
like,
me wAesoph, and I'm like, that's probably better. Just call me that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's so funny. You're like, I don't know. It looked cool. I wasn't thinking.
Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious, man. So, okay, we've kind of passed by the topic a couple times, like travel and like living abroad, and I want to dive into that because that it seems like a really interesting part of your story. So, was this just like your family lived in different places, or just you? Did you just study abroad? How did that work?
Yeah, the stories I've mentioned so far were all me. So like originally my family was from South Dakota and
Hmm.
then we moved to Canada and that's all the moving we've done.
Okay.
And then I went to Norway with my buddy when I was 16. He was
Hmm.
from Norway, so we just went back to his hometown.
Oh, cool.
And then when I graduated high school, I moved to Belgium because I wanted to take a gap year and that was amazing. And then
Hmm.
I moved to Minnesota to play baseball and then I came back to Canada.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So
So
I've been kind of like, yeah, just going around everywhere.
yeah, you really bounced around. So, okay, wait. So you studied abroad while you were in high school?
I graduated and then I did a year abroad.
Oh, okay, okay. So you graduated way early then, like 2 years early.
No, what?
No,
Huh?
you said you were 16, right? You
Oh,
studied
sorry.
abroad?
When I went to Norway, I was still in high school,
Yeah.
and it was a summertime thing.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I,
Sorry,
I
sorry.
guess
And then
I inferred that you'd been there longer than you were. Okay, that makes sense.
right, yeah. And
Got
then
it.
Belgium was a post high school thing.
Interesting. Okay, wow, that's really cool. So your parents were chill with you and your buddy just like going overseas for the summer? That was like no problem?
Well, his dad, so they moved to Canada from Norway, and his dad is a surgeon and didn't want to get relicensed. So he still worked
Mm,
over there. So I traveled there by myself, but we lived in an apartment, me and my buddy, and his dad was also in the town. So
mhm.
it wasn't too bad. Like we barely saw him, but he was there if we needed him in
Yeah.
emergency. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Wow, what a cool experience. I feel like yeah, we probably all would benefit from something like that, but it's like how do you make that work, right? Sounds like you had a pretty cool situation there. So then, okay, so you're an American citizen then and living in Canada. Was it just easier back then to do that? Like, how did that work with like, how was
Dual
Canada cool with this?
citizenship. So my mom's
Oh,
Canadian. So if,
okay.
yeah, she was able to apply for it when I was like 1. I
Hmm.
didn't even need to be here. It was
Oh,
great.
wow. That's awesome. Very cool. And so you got the option if things aren't going so hot for America, you can just head up north. That's amazing. Yeah. I feel like a lot of us would have killed for that recently. Interesting. Okay, so let's talk about your experience on Scythe. Like how did that get started and what was that like for you?
So like there was a point where I had recently hit GM for the first time
Mhm.
and I was working really hard. I was getting better really fast.
Mhm.
And I don't know how I heard about the tryout. I think
Mhm.
I followed Toast
Mhm.
on Twitter because he was the Dank Shrine guy.
Yeah.
And so he posted as like, I'm starting a team. I'm having
Mhm.
open tryouts. I DM'd him on Twitter and he's like, okay, show up at this day and time. And then he
Mhm.
had me play a best of 3 against one of the players who was already on the team. I think at the time the team was X Kawaiian, uh, Idraling slash, I mean, that guy's had 100 names. Volts.
Yeah. Cicada.
Yeah, he's Cicada. Yeah. And then he had me play against Rengen, who's like a GM Protoss.
Mhm.
In a best of 3, I lost 2-1, but I guess it was still good enough. It wasn't about whether I won or lost. It's like,
Mhm.
does he think I can get better?
Yeah.
And and then yeah, I think he signed like, I don't know how many of us. There was like 8 of us or something who were like mid GM players that were essentially like prospects, and then there was the 2 pros, Zest and Cham.
Mhm.
And yeah, that was great. I mean, that was probably the most fun I've had doing competitive StarCraft. We used to do things such as like we had what we called family fun time. Which was team practice where
Uh-huh.
we would just play against each other. But
Mhm.
family fun time was especially fun when someone new would join the team because
Mhm.
what it means is he would put in Discord, he'd say it's time for family fun time. So and so is joining the team. And it means they have to play against everybody on the team one time and we're all sitting in a call.
Oh man.
So it was always hilarious. Like watching, for example, when Scythe joined the team, there was this whole thing on Twitter. It's like, how are you guys not signing this guy who's called Scythe? This is the best meme ever. And it turns
Yeah.
out he's like a 6K Terran. It's like, oh, it makes sense. And he came through and he demolished everybody on
Oh
it.
man.
I think he lost like one TVT to like Smile or Groovy Man.
Mhm. Oh,
So
that's super funny.
yeah.
Very cool. So, okay, so you're on site. Sounds like you're like having a good time. And then man, like Toast got screwed, dude, with like the way everything went down with HOTS, like or with Heroes. I mean,
Yeah.
that I still count as like such a tragedy for not even like the SC2 scene, the Heroes scene, but like your team specifically got shafted because like there's this epic scouting of a team that then turns into something. Lo and
Yeah.
behold, right? And
Yeah.
and like you guys were getting these sponsors, like it was all lined up. Blizz is like, hey, sorry, no heroes. Get fucked. Like we're shutting it all down. Zero notice. Like, sorry. And now all of a sudden, like, how do you guys go to your sponsors? Like, so what was that like as somebody who kind of lived through it?
It was it was so sad. I mean, like, because uh when what was their original name? Something Orc. But anyways, they were
I can't
Scythe.
recall. Yeah.
When they originally like qualified for Premier League, we
Hmm.
were celebrating because, trickle down. It's like their success helps the amateur division of Scythe as well. Like I had already played in a DreamHack by that point, which
Yeah.
was like supported by Scythe, and I wasn't gonna win the DreamHack. So it was amazing that they helped me do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And there was a bunch of us there who none of us were gonna win. I
Hmm.
think the best player we had there was Cham.
Hmm.
Um, and then so and like I don't know how much of the details are public, but there was like a new big sponsorship deal in the works.
Mhm.
Like it wasn't signed, but it was finished,
Right.
and that was going to support us for an entire year.
Yeah.
And
I
it
think
was
that
like,
much of it is public. I don't think the public knows who it was, but
right,
I
okay, okay,
I remember seeing him tweet, like, that he had a big sponsorship coming and that it was about to kind of close. And then I
yeah,
remember him tweeting like a couple weeks later, if that, like, oh, like I've lost everything. Like
yeah.
we're done basically.
Yeah. So like it was like what essentially what was going to happen to the amateur StarCraft division was we would receive the same support as we were, and then if we hit like certain MMR goals, we
Mm,
would start getting salaried. And
hmm.
it was like, shit, this is amazing. Like
Yeah.
no other team, I couldn't get an opportunity that good with any other team.
Hmm.
Like nobody would support me like that
Hmm.
for the level I was at.
Right.
But it was like amazing to have that practice environment, and I feel like you could really cultivate good players from that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's such a cool story of like the way that you guys were trying to build up, and even like now the insider scoop that I'm getting from you, of like, family practice, fun time and different
Yeah.
stuff like that just feels like a really cool environment. It strikes me as like kind of the right way to do it, right? Where it's like, okay, um, our team over in this game is doing well. That brings everybody up, right? And then now the people in StarCraft are like, all right, now let's go kick ass. Let's double down, right? We gotta hold our own too. Like that just feels like a really fun energy, and it's such a shame that it went the way that it did, especially like through no fault of your own, right? If it was a mismanagement by the players or by the owner, it's almost like easier to stomach because then it's like, oh, I screwed up, right?
Yeah.
And this is like totally outside of my control. Like some corporate guy in a boardroom was like, yeah, no, we're just gonna like shit on this game, and like lo and behold,
Yeah.
like it has consequences, right?
I feel like once again, StarCraft kind of got under what's the word? Underjudged.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, like I feel like the StarCraft part of the team could have carried us a little bit. Like
Mm-hmm.
obviously the sponsorship deal doesn't need to be as much when you don't have a heroes team there.
Mm-hmm.
Because we had
Hmm.
Zest. He had just been in the GSL finals
Right.
and he
Right.
got
Right.
swept by Maru, but that's a different story.
Well,
He
we
was
don't
in the
talk about
finals.
that.
Yeah. And Cham was doing amazing. He was
Mm-hmm.
starting to be like he was starting to beat special sometimes. So
Mm-hmm.
like he
Hmm.
was competing for the top dog in Latin America. And it's
Yeah.
like our StarCraft division is really good. We also I think Prince was on our team, who's now
Mm.
like
Quite
qualifies for
good.
Coda sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's, like he could have maybe been even better if Toast could give him the financial support to practice
Mm-hmm.
and not have to work.
Right.
So, but the sponsors weren't interested. The StarCraft
Yeah.
was like Toast's passion project, I think,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
where he's like the sponsors were like, "We want your heroes team," and
Mm-hmm.
he's like, "Can you also pay these couple of StarCraft pros?" And they're like, "If we have to."
Right.
Yeah.
It
So
goes package deal. Sorry, buddy. You
yeah,
gotta support all of Scythe if you want to support any of it. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh man. So okay, you mentioned briefly, kind of you had looked at opportunities with other teams. I don't want to get you in trouble. We don't have to name names, but what was that process like? Were you just kind of putting out feelers? Were people coming to you? How did that sort of work?
Uh, well, I mean, when like when you're in GM, you get random messages from people sometimes because they can
Okay.
find you really easily. If
Mm-hmm.
they notice you're not in a clan, they'll just ask you to join their team.
Okay.
So, and I was getting approached. There's a local team that's pretty big. They asked me to play,
Mm-hmm.
but like I and even today, like as a streamer, I get asked. I've been asked like 2 or 3 times, maybe total.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I don't really want to like sign with the team unless they're going to try to help me get like these are all like community teams. And
Mm-hmm.
if I can't be on a competitive team, I don't want to be on the team.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, for example, Scythe
Mm-hmm.
got acquired by Gosu Crew,
Mm-hmm.
and when that happened, the whole Scythe StarCraft roster got shoved over to Gosu Crew. And I think on Wikipedia, I'm still like the captain of the academy roster, which isn't true. I've never been on the team because
Uh-huh.
I quit immediately.
Mm-hmm.
I talked to the owner I had a Discord call with the owner of Gosu Crew, and
Mm-hmm.
he's like, I have all these grand plans for you guys. And then nothing ever happened. And
Mm-hmm.
I talked to him later, and he's like, oh, just join the community clan and we'll figure it out later. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be on the community team. I'd rather be on no team
Yeah.
than the community team because that's not my goals for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I get the like, I feel like the benefits of being on the community team is mostly like the social aspects,
Mm.
but I have those communities already.
Sure.
So yeah. Uh
Yeah, it's interesting. There's sort of this like gradient between, hey, me and my buddies have a clan in game where we meme around and chat or whatever, we play team games or whatever it is, and it's like this weird continuum between that and like, insert name of like highly professional org here, right? That like doesn't
Yeah.
even have a StarCraft team anymore. Um and it's almost kind of funny because like people sort of think about it like they're all the same, and it's not, but there's no clear real divisions. Like you've kind of thrown out what I feel is a good kind of categorization, right? It's like, is this a pro team? Is this an organization that has a pro team and a community team? Is it just a clan? Is it a bunch of memers? What is it, right? It's good, I think, that you have a very clear idea of like, okay, for me to join something, it's got to do this, 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 right? Like
Hmm.
I need to be, on a pro roster. Like it needs to be serious business. We're looking for sponsors. We're trying to like do it right versus just I'm in some clan kind of thing.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
so, like, academy teams used to fill that niche perfectly for my
Mm.
level, right?
Hmm.
I'm not good enough to be a pro, but, like, Complexity, for example, used to have an academy roster with, like,
Hmm.
10 guys on it who are
Hmm.
really good.
Yeah.
It's like, that's the type of team I belong in, that doesn't exist in the scene anymore, and that's
Right.
kinda what Scythe was as well.
Yeah. 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 Interesting. Well, and like, Scythe was kind of like that plus, right? Where it's like,
Yeah.
okay, we have this, but like, and people can make whatever arguments they want. Like, was that Heroes team like just brilliant scouting? Was it luck? Was it a bit of both? Like everybody's got their own opinion, but shit, man, the results were there. Like you can't argue with that, So yeah, I feel like when you have that buzz around you, even if it is like an academy team situation, it's like this is an academy team as part of an organization that has proven results, right? So now it's like, oh, what's what's gonna do?
Yeah.
Is he gonna get on that level too? Like it's just such a fun energy.
Yeah, I have a buddy who played on the Complexity Academy team, like, we're
Hmm.
from the not from the same city, we live in the same city,
Hmm.
and, he got called up to the pro roster.
Hmm.
Before he I think he got like a year on the pro roster before they disbanded, but
Mm.
it's like that used to be such a cool path for like
Hmm.
NA talent to take,
Yeah.
and I don't know what it is anymore. I
Hmm.
guess you play for Infinity Gaming, and then I don't know what it is anymore. I don't know what you do as like a mid-tier GM to try and make it.
Yeah. 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 Um, I mean, I think Infinity's rip as well, last I heard. So
Wait, really?
I believe
Oh,
so. Yeah.
rip.
Um. Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting, man. Well, along those lines, right? So obviously, like we know StarCraft, for the next couple of years at least, we have the ESL deal. Like the esports exist, the checks have been written. Like they can't like undo it, kind of thing. Um, we also have a lot of exciting stuff on the horizon. I don't know if you saw the most recent Pylon show, the Sunspear guys on there.
I
Um,
haven't watched it yet, but
okay, but you're at least aware that that exists,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And of course we've got Frost Giant waiting in the wings. We don't know what Mike Morheim's cooking up, but probably some RTS stuff coming in the works, from him. So there's kind of this interesting thing of like we all love StarCraft. I don't know that I'm ever gonna not love StarCraft. And the people who made this thing that I love and some enthusiasts who also love this thing that I love now have their own companies. They're making their own things. How do you think about this as a guy who's really devoted to getting better at this game? How do you think about the idea that these people who also really like it are making new things?
I'm so excited.
Yeah,
I mean, ideally, Blizzard would sell the IP to one of these guys, and they
right.
would take care of StarCraft for me.
Hmm.
But I'm really happy that those are the guys making the new RTS. I don't
Yeah.
like. I've tried other RTSs. I really like Age of Empires, for example.
Mm.
But like, what's the other one? I don't know. There's like this World War II RTS. Metal? No, I don't know.
I've
Anyways,
seen people
like these
streaming that, but I
squad
can't tell
based
you. Yeah.
RTSs, I've tried a bunch of those, like the
Hmm.
Warhammer ones and stuff. I can't do it, and like
Mm.
Halo Wars, can't do it.
Hmm.
So because it's a different style, right? So even Frost Giant, when they were on the Pylon show, they made it seem like the game they were making was gonna be like mechanically similar to StarCraft.
Mm.
So like for example with StarCraft 2, I was an RTS nobody. Like I had
Mm.
never played RTS really.
Hmm.
I had played some Age of Empires, and I didn't get into the beta. So I have this like dream in my head of whatever either the game that was just talked about in the Pylon show
Hmm.
or the Frost Giant game. of like getting in at the beta
Yeah.
and like and like being one of the innovators, like getting good at it, putting like 12 hours a day in, having
Mhm.
so much fun learning the game. Because like when I came into StarCraft, the meta was established for like
Yeah,
forever.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Once I got to a good level,
Mhm.
I didn't really get to do any innovating. So I want to
Mhm.
like I have this dream of like learning the game for the first time and just having I don't know. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, look. Psst. Hey, Sunspear. Hey, Frost Giant. Are you paying attention? You just heard a man say he wants to spend 12 hours a day in your early access. Can we make that happen for my boy?
You
Can
can
we
do it
do it?
with Sunspear, right? If you support their Kickstarter, you get alpha access or beta
Ah.
access, depending what tier you go with.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait. I have to watch the Pylon show to see if I like the devs. So
Yeah.
that's the other thing, right? Is it's not like there's no RTSs coming out.
Mhm.
There's RTS released, every year maybe, and none of them
Do the
like pick
trick,
up
yeah.
steam.
Right.
So it's like I don't I'm ready to like jump into StarCraft's like successor,
Mm,
but I'm not gonna jump ship as long as StarCraft is like
the better
alive.
game. Yeah.
So whatever game and a big thing is gonna be like the game is gonna Tastosis and all the big community figures are gonna need to like give their signature of approval
Mhm.
to the next game.
Right.
So, this is probably earliest like 2023
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
something.
Right.
So like I gotta do my research before I pay $60 for the alpha access to see if I think it could be a successor, but
Totally, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. No, and I feel like that's wise. And actually, I'm partway through that episode. I've been like chipping away at it all week since Wednesday night. And what I've heard so far is actually like they totally get that that's going to be like your take, and they actually agree that that should be your take. You should be like, I don't know. A lot of people claim they know how to do an RTS right, like, and so I like actually that they're really welcoming of that kind of skepticism. And yeah, I'm kind of still making my mind up as well, but yeah, it's so exciting that there are people thinking about it, right? Like there are
Yeah.
people spending their whole day every week, like professionally trying to concoct something that could be as good as StarCraft. And they're coming from StarCraft. It's not like they're just some asshole off the street who was like, "Oh, I can make some money, whatever." They're like, they're StarCraft people, right? Like, yeah, that's just so hype. So yeah, man, I really hope, circling back to our earlier point, I really hope that when we do get to this, 2023 or whenever it is that, we're kind of talking about, that those, big teams do reinvest and that we do have this kind of like academy team thing. Cause like, I know I look at a guy like you and I see how hard you work in improving. And it's like, oh, like humanity is like somehow screwing up that we're not devoting more resources to this. Like, it's just so cool. Like, I don't know. So, okay, bring it back to you then. How do you think about improvement? How do you think about getting your skill or your MMR higher? Like, what's your overall approach or framework for that?
Uh, I think it's kind of changed since
Mm,
I've started streaming. You
okay.
just kind of have to accept the fact that it's going to be harder to improve as a
Mm-hmm.
streamer.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong, I do think it's possible. Like you do have some like high level streamers who have gotten better as a streamer. I think Jason, I don't think he
Mm,
was a 6K when he started.
mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe he was, but
I'm not
I
sure.
like he's really good.
Yeah.
Um but so recently I've just been trying to like keep my head above water with my Zerg, and it's
Yeah.
been a struggle to like stay at a GM level.
Mm, okay.
But what scratches the improvement itch is like my other things. So
Mm,
I'm learning how to edit YouTube videos,
okay.
and I'm learning how to cast, and I'm off racing, and my Protoss is getting really good.
Okay. I
And
like it.
yeah, I'm getting good with Protoss, and it's like that has because like when I first started streaming, I was so committed to Zerg ladder, and I didn't feel like I was getting better, and I felt bad all the time because it was the only
Mm,
thing I was doing.
mm-hmm.
So I've been able to like kind of satiate that with the other things while the Zerg kind of stays the same.
Yeah.
I have like methods I've used in the past in dire times to like improve. I have like a whole like 50-page document that I used to use back in the day when I was on Scythe that was like, the beginning of the document just in a big header it's called current struggles, and
Mm,
it has a point form list of everything I'm struggling with. and how much I'm struggling with it from 1 to 10.
Mm.
And I check things off the list, like cannon rushes. I spend a week only playing customs doing cannon rushes, and then
Mhm.
I just go down the list and check
Mhm.
things off. So I might need to go back to that kind of method. The rest of the 50 pages is like build orders. It's like map vetoes. It's my win percentages on every matchup and every map, like super analytical,
Mhm.
kind of like the spreadsheets that
Yeah,
the
for
cannon
depth
rushers have
stuff.
used,
Uh-huh.
but in a Google Doc instead, so it's
Yeah.
less organized. But and I've gone back to it recently. I've slowly so like I went away from custom games. That used to be like my go-to method when I was first coming up, like making my way to GM. What I would do is I'd only play customs for like 3 weeks,
Mhm.
and the main reason was my ladder anxiety was so bad. The
Mm.
only way I could deal with ladder was only winning. And the only way you can only win is be better than your MMR, right?
Right,
So
right.
I only play customs for like 3 weeks, and I come back to ladder, I win like 10 games in a row. And then I would start losing. I'd be like, no, 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 this is too, I can't do it.
Uh-huh.
And then I go back to customs. I went away from that because like ladder's just like easier content, right? It's hard to like
Mm.
sit there waiting for people to respond to you.
Right.
And then sometimes you sit in a call with them, you can't interact with chat as much. But I've
Mhm.
been going back to it recently because I really do want to get better at Zerg. So I've been slowly building up my list of GM practice partners. I
Mm.
maybe have 5 or 6 now, and I try to. I think this is kind of like tangential, but I think like the best way to improve is to play with people better than you,
Mm.
and then, but they can't be too much better than you, right?
Mhm.
There's a limit there. I would
Yeah.
say like 3 to 500 MMR above you is the sweet spot
Mhm.
where you're going to get better at an accelerated pace.
Mhm.
And they're kind of doing you a favor at that point. I guess at that point they're just practicing their build orders.
Sure.
So I've been specifically sniping those people. So like Maples is someone I played a ton of customs with. He's
Uh-huh.
like 5,800.
Mhm.
Pili Pili was nice enough to play some customs with me.
Mhm.
He's way better than me, so those games weren't great. And there's a bunch of like 5,800 players that
Yeah.
I've harassed into playing customs with me, and I feel like I'm starting to get better again.
Uh-huh. Okay, it's so interesting to hear you say that because I subscribe to the same school of thought as you do, that playing against people who are better is good and useful, and there's a limit.
Mhm.
This, it turns out, blows my mind still, is a controversial idea. There are many people I have talked to who do not think that there's a limit, who think that just like getting absolutely destroyed by somebody is like a fine way to learn. And I guess like I don't want to turn this into too much of an echo chamber of us both telling each other that we're right. But I feel very validated to hear you say that because like you're one of the first people who I consider good at the game, like high level GM player kind of thing. To be like, yeah, no, I don't want to fight somebody who's like 1,000 MMR higher than me, kind of thing.
I do. I just think there's no value in it for them. Don't get me
Mm.
wrong. I
Hmm.
do think you can get better playing against as a silver player playing against a GM,
Okay.
but the deal needs to be the GM's gonna let you play. They're not gonna kill you with their
Mm.
first
Hmm.
Reaper.
Hmm.
They need to. So there's no value for them at that point,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
I want to be able to give them good practice. So when
Hmm.
I was playing against Pili Pili, like one game, he killed me with his first 3 Void Rays
Mm.
because like he's just outpositioned me and he picked off the queens one at a time and then I lost the game.
Hmm.
And it's like now we have to start a new game. We just wasted 6 minutes.
Mm. Yeah.
So if you're gonna, you can improve with someone disgustingly better than you. I feel like they need to be letting you play the game though. They just need
Mm.
to like, you know, just pat you on the head. Good job. But it can work.
Okay, okay, so this is interesting. Now we can fight a little bit. We're just gonna make better content, right? So
Sure,
so
sure.
all right. So my thought here is that they can do that. You're right, and there's totally a skill set around that. Um, what I wonder though, and what I've always said, like I didn't like when so for example, like HJax and Printf have tried to make me better since the dawn of time, right? They've
Mhm.
tried to drag me up to masters, and it hasn't worked. Um, I always hated it when they would make me like one of them would off race against me, be like, okay, play my Zerg, right? We do this training because it felt wrong. It felt weird, the choices they would make compared to like a true diamond player. So it's almost like there's this weird like are you familiar with like the uncanny valley effect thing?
Mm-mm.
It's like if there's something that's meant to look human, but it's not quite right, you have this like visceral revulsion to it. Or it's so like if you see like an android looking thing that's like it's meant to look human, it's kind of close to right, it's not quite right. I would get that kind of a sensation, like not like physically disgusted or anything, but it's like this shit feels wrong. And I don't know exactly why, but like the stuff you're doing is not Diamond Zerg stuff. You might be playing in a way that if you went and laddered, you would be ranked as a Diamond Zerg, but this is not representative of like the overall population of Diamond Zergs. You're doing some like GM level stuff and then some like high gold, low plat stuff. And it kind of sort of equals out to being like Diamond ish, but it's not like actually good practice for me.
Mm-hmm.
Have you experienced anything like this or am I just like weird?
Yeah, I refuse to play against people's off races essentially
Okay.
because for that reason and because it's embarrassing. I find I get embarrassed when I lose to
Uh
someone's
huh.
off race. It
Yeah, yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
matter if it could literally be Scarlet, right? Whose
Mm.
Protoss is like 6,500.
Hmm.
I don't want to play against her Protoss because it's embarrassing because she's
Yeah.
better at 2 races. She's probably
Right.
better at all 3 races than I am at my main.
Hmm.
So it's like if someone, if someone offers like, "Oh, I'll play Protoss against you," and they're like a Terran main, I'd be like, "I'll find someone else."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you're right, the way they play is wrong, like quote unquote wrong. They're
It's
just so
so weird.
mechanically strong
Uh huh.
that they make it work, and it's not good practice, I don't think, for
It's
you.
like when I watch, big streamers or whatever, and they're off race, like GM, level streamers, and they'll be laughing about it, joking about it, be like, yeah, I have no idea how to open in PvP or whatever, right? Like, and it's so weird, dude. I mean, PvP opening's weird for sure. Like, I get why people don't know, but like, and then they're better than me, right? They'll get like mid masters, like, shit, man, I'm out here really trying. And you're just so much better at understanding StarCraft, right? It does
Right.
not matter that you don't know gate, gas gate, core, second pylon. Like, you don't even need that, apparently. Like,
Yeah.
ah, breaks my mind, man. All right, so enough about me. Um, so you kind of gave me your framework of like present day. This is what I'm doing. This is maybe what I think I'll go back to. What about on your journey up from, guy who took a big break after Heart of the Swarm to I want to get really good in Legacy? Like, how'd you get GM so quick? What's the secret, man? Is it just 2 hours a day? Is that all I got to do to like get a 6 pack? Like, how do I, how do I get ripped in StarCraft?
That's part of it. Part of it is I personally, I get better really quickly when I have a goal and when that
Mm.
goal is a person I wanna beat. And
Ooh.
so in Vancouver, I moved to Vancouver and that's when I started playing again.
Hmm.
And I was going to the local tournaments. I was doing okay. I was like, when I came back, I was maybe like mid diamond when I did my placements because I was like high diamond when I left. And I went to the tournaments, and there was this guy who was a former pro, Elheim. I don't know if anyone knows who that is.
Not
He was a
sure.
really good Terran player. He was the captain of Flipside, like
Oh,
pretty
okay.
good player, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And he kicked my ass, and I just he was like the person I needed to beat.
Yeah.
So it was a combination of like that fire burning, and which, by the way, ZVT is my best matchup to this day, has been my best matchup for like 4 years now because I had to kill him.
Uh-huh.
And then um I think coaching is like the biggest shortcut ever.
Mm, mhm,
I think you can get like 100 hours of practice value out of like 1 hour of coaching with the
mhm.
right coach.
Right.
So at the time, Risky was my coach. And he was just like the insight he can give you, the things, it's like so much shit you would never figure out on your own.
Right, right.
And maybe eventually, but like,
Sure. Yeah,
yeah,
it's like how many hours did he have to pay to be able to give you that in 2 seconds kind of thing.
right. Yeah. The first time I figured this out was when I was first playing the game. I was in silver forever, like hard stuck.
Mhm.
And this guy made a post on Reddit, like doing free coaching. And I
Mm, mhm.
messaged him. And in 1 hour, I literally jumped from silver to plat because
Wow.
he taught me all these things. It was stupid stuff. Like I don't know, don't let your larva sit there for a minute. What are you
Mm,
doing?
mhm,
Just
mhm.
spend your money on
Yeah,
whatever,
right.
you know? And then it's like, "Oh, wow, that was really helpful." And then later, so then Namshar was my next coach, but he wasn't a pro yet.
Mhm,
He was like a low tier European GM. That was
mhm,
amazing. And then Risky and now sort of.
mhm.
And I like switching coaches a lot too because I feel
Mm.
like, probably by like the 6th or 7th session with Risky, the insights weren't quite as like mind-blowing
Okay,
because
yeah.
we've gone over all the big concepts.
Mhm,
So, yeah, I think consistency is a huge one, or else you're constantly de-rusting.
mhm.
Uh, Coaching, and then like the practice needs to be what's the word? Like conscious. Like you need to like be trying to get better. So it's better to play like 5 games in a day, look at the game, be working on something specific. Oh, okay, I gotta back up a little bit. Working
Okay.
on something specific.
Yeah.
So whenever I'm trying to get better, I work on one thing each day, and that's the only thing I do.
Hmm.
And I got this idea from like Maynard, where he has like his goals every day, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
And it's like the win condition is not winning the game. The win condition is winning your whatever the thing is.
Yes.
So it's like queen energy never goes above 50.
Hmm.
You cover the entire map in creep,
Hmm.
or like you have 66 drones by 545.
Yeah.
That's your win condition for the entire day.
Hmm.
And then you work on one aspect of the game each day, and you can change it, or you can do it for like 3 days. It depends how
Hmm.
many games you're playing a day, right?
Hmm.
And then eventually you just bring the whole level up to play, and then your MMR follows. It's kind of like a leg effect where your
Sure.
MMR is probably going to drop a little bit because you're not trying to win.
Hmm.
And then you do that like focused practice for like a week where you're working on all these different things, and then you go
Hmm.
back to playing like regular for a week, and your MMR might spike.
Hmm.
And yeah, I don't know. That's just kind of the approach I took. And I should probably go back to it because my injects right now are just garbage.
Yeah, man. Okay. I love this. I had to start typing notes halfway through what you just said because my brain wants to go in 5 different directions at once. Okay. So I too, as you know, am a devotee of, the sort of Maynard focus school of thought. I too need to get back to it. Have not been doing it. I want to talk to you about this because you have taken this further than I've been able to, right? Which means you have some secrets that I have not figured out, right? So one of the things that I found difficult is like sometimes a focus goal is highly specific to what I'm doing in the game. Queen energy is a fantastic example, right? It's concrete. It's easy for me to look through a replay, be like, are the energy bars too high or not, kind of thing. And it does not matter that much what my opponent's doing, right? Maybe it's easier or harder depending on the strategy they choose. If we go to some 60-minute macro game, maybe at some point I stop caring about my queen energy because like, why am I injecting when I'm 200 kind of thing, right?
Right.
But there are other focus goals where like, maybe it's like mini map awareness at this certain point in the game against Terran only because they're going to drop my base at just such a timing. And I know the thing that's holding me back on ladder is I'm winning all my, versus Zerg. I'm winning all my versus Protoss. And these freaking Terrans are dropping Widow Mines and I just fall over, right? Like a strong gust just hit me and I just, fall. So how do you think about that where it's like, I know that I want to improve this, right? Is it just customs? Because if I ladder, it's like, well, what happens if I only queue Protoss tonight, kind of thing?
If I use ladder, I do it across all 3 matchups, even if
Okay.
because the objective isn't winning, right?
Right.
I'll creep spread, like for example, let's say you're playing ZVZ
Mm-hmm.
and you're a muta player, you don't want to really spread creep because you don't want to make their roaches faster.
Right.
I'll spread creep, doesn't matter. And I like to do it like hyper focus on the thing.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say my creep spread or mini map awareness was like a really good example because that one caused me to lose like 100 games in a row. My mini map awareness was like a 2. And then so I said for the next 3 days, the only way I'm going to, instead of like looking at the main screen and flicking my eyes to the mini map, I'm going to stare at the mini map and flick my eyes to the main screen. And I did that for like 3 days.
Yeah.
And I'm just staring at the mini map every game. And so my mini map awareness is a 10 for those 3 days.
Yeah.
And then I figure once I go back to playing normally, what happens for me at least is now my mini map awareness is a 5.
Mm-hmm.
It's you've built in these like muscle memory a little bit. So you're not as good as you were when it was your focus goal, but you're better than you used to be.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of like the approach. You just really need to be okay with the fact that you're probably not going to win very much when you're doing these focus goals.
Mm-hmm.
So I do them across all matchups, even if it's like a Terrans or Protoss specific.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's going to help me more in one matchup than the other.
Okay, so you'll basically try to find a way, even if like, okay, the problem is defend the drop at 5 minutes or whatever against Terran, you will just find a way to generalize it up a little bit. Like maybe instead of look at your minimap at 5 minutes defend this drop, it's just look at your minimap. And so you make it big enough that you could do ladder and have it work?
Yeah, what I mean, like, if because you mentioned this in your interview with F equals MA, you
Mm,
said, "What if he comes in 40 seconds late? The drop does a ton of damage
mhm.
because I'm not looking at the minimap anymore." Okay,
Yeah.
well then the problem is your minimap awareness. It's not
Right.
the five. Not you shouldn't like.
Mm,
There are timings that are good to know, right? Like
mhm.
for example, I do this little speedling cheese against Terrans all the time, and the Reaper spawns at 2:05, so I go
Okay.
in at 2:12. It's
Yeah.
amazing. This timing works every single time,
Yeah.
but
Doctors hate him.
yeah. But it's like you can't rely on them as well. Sometimes the Reaper's still gonna be there, and it's like,
Yeah.
ah, shit, my timing didn't work.
Right.
Um, so let's say like mini map awareness, right?
Mhm.
And you can go even bigger
Yeah.
than mini map awareness, and map vision is a huge one. This is what
Mm,
makes the pros really good. Is uh, the pros? It seems like they have like these insane reflexes. They're able to just like respond to everything instantly,
mhm.
when in fact they're ready for everything, and
Mm,
it's something I work on all the time. So, for example, if I'm not currently attacking the opponent,
mhm.
when I'm playing well, my army's in like split into three spots.
Mhm.
So if they try to drop me, the army's already there. So,
Mm,
like for example, with minimap awareness, it's it's nice to have the fast reflexes, and like the medevac comes out of the fog of war and it's already inside your base, and then like you have the six splits or whatever. But you know what's better is seeing the medevac way farther out. So then
yeah.
you might work on like spreading your observers and having a zealot on his expansions, and it's like so like yeah, instead of focusing on like the 5 minute timing, focus on like the mini map awareness and then the bigger issue of like map vision in general, right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. I really like that. I feel like I'm going to get a lot of mileage out of that. See, chat. This is why we do these. I'm just mining information for myself, man. I'm just trying to get good. I want to talk to all these people that are smarter than me. So, okay, you mentioned another thing, and I feel like I kind of sort of have this one, but it's so hard. And I feel like actually, dude, this might be your superpower. I always try to look for like what is like the thing that's like what is this person freakishly good at, right? And you didn't even like people are going to miss this. And I'm glad I'm here to tell them to appreciate this about you. This idea of I got to convince myself and honestly believe in my heart that the way that I win this game is I spread creep all over hell or I stare at the minimap or whatever it is. And I do not care about the MMR that I lose. Like, I remember when I was able to do that really well, and I can't right now. I'm really bad at
Yeah.
it now. And I remember when I was doing that really well, yeah, you'd have your nights where you're like, I'm staring at the minimap and I'm losing all my games. And guess what happens the week after that? You freaking skyrocket and you're like in the next league, right? And so I I don't even know how to really explain this, and I'm hoping you could do a better job than me because I've tried to tell people this, right? It seems like you have a really strong understanding here of like, how do you do that emotional gymnastics and mental gymnastics and convince yourself the only thing that matters right now is my mini-map vision. Mini-map vision. Lose games. It's fine. Like, how do you navigate that, man?
Well, I mean, the main strategy is playing on alts, where
Mm. Mm-hmm.
my rank is not like tied into my pride.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, like whatever the highest MMR on one of my accounts is, like that's what I tell people I am, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So whatever the lowest rating is, that's what I practice on. And I have
Mm.
one account that isn't ranked,
Okay.
and I only play unranked. I have no idea what the MMR is. And so
Whoa.
for example, my last stream, I
Yeah.
did viewer strats the entire stream. These
Mm-hmm.
Galaxy Brain, mostly terrible strategies. I went
Yeah.
like 3-12 or 3-15, something,
Uh-huh.
but I don't know what the MMR is. I was
That's
playing
so
against good
interesting.
players, I was playing
Yeah.
against mostly GM players,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm sure by the end of the stream, the MMR was not GM, not
Mm-hmm.
even
Mm-hmm.
close. But I didn't care. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, I think for me, the main strategy is just playing on alts,
Okay.
playing on
Yeah.
whatever account you don't think is like the one that's tied into your pride. Because I
Mm-hmm.
can't do that on my main. No way.
Yeah.
Because I want to like, if I'm gonna like play in a tournament or play customs with someone, I really like, playing customs, signing into my highest MMR account and be like, yeah, this is what level I am.
Uh-huh.
So I
Yeah.
can't lower that rating with these stupid practice games.
Okay, I like it. Yeah, and I feel like acknowledging again the human element, kind of like when we were talking about manner earlier, right? It's like, hey, look, this is me. I'm a human. I have emotions, right? Being able to say like, hey, this is true, and I'm on a mission. So here's how I'm going to get to that mission. I could cheat a little bit. I could, have multiple accounts. There's no rules here. Like,
Yeah.
I could trick my brain any way I need to get the improvement. I love that. All right. One more. I'm really putting you under the microscope here, but it's like I feel like we just got to the good stuff, right? I know we're like towards the end. Um, you talked about switching coaches being important.
Mhm.
This, I think, maybe was a pitfall for me because, man, HX and Printf devoted a lot of their free time. I mean, there was a point in time where they were both spending like half their Saturday every weekend trying to get me better. And we definitely hit that point you're talking about where it's like, it doesn't feel like earth shattering anymore, the things they're telling me. And they're kind of struggling too with like, hey, what can we tell this kid to get him better? You know? Um, and it felt to me disrespectful to be like, okay, I'm going to go listen to somebody else now kind of thing, right? Where it's like, these guys have really invested in me kind of thing. And it also feels like there's a line between if like, let's say I had a different coach every weekend, right?
Mhm.
Well, now all of a sudden it's like, they just have different schools of thought and I'm getting pulled this way and getting pulled that way. And it's confusing, right? So how do you navigate the emotional piece of it? And where do you think the sweet spot is for switching it up?
Hmm. I with the emotional piece, I haven't really had an issue.
Okay.
Nobody kinda got butthurt over it. There was
Hmm.
to be fair, there was no, like there was no overlap between my relationships, you know? So, like, when I stopped taking lessons with Risky, it wasn't like I said, "Hey, you're not my coach anymore."
Hmm.
I just, like I didn't book a lesson for a while, and then I picked up sort of, like, 8 months later.
Hmm.
And then,
Okay.
yeah, like, as far as the switching goes, so it it doesn't need to be mind-blowing every time
Mm.
because
Hmm.
you can only cover, like, the high level concepts so many times
Yeah.
before you're good enough that the details are what makes you better.
Hmm.
I think it's when you start hearing the same thing over and over because as assuming you're taking notes or you're internalizing it, like, it's not about them telling you again, it's about you actually doing the thing.
Yeah. Hmm.
And then I think coaching a lot of the time, once you run out of ideas of things to go over, coaching a lot of the time devolves into live coaching, which I personally don't think is by live coaching. I mean like they sit there and they watch you ladder and they
Hmm.
tell you what to do in real time.
Hmm. Hmm.
Personally, don't think that's super valuable because
Mm.
when you're playing StarCraft, like 98% of your brain is committed to what's right in front of you.
Mhm.
So if you get to that level, I don't think it's super valuable anymore. It kinda also depends what your goals are.
Mm.
So, for example, with Risky, I feel like I mean, you can learn something every lesson, but
Mhm.
you learn, like, less and less the more lessons you take with them.
Mhm.
So, it kinda becomes like a return on
Diminishing
investment type
returns.
thing where
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
paying him, and
Mm.
the first lesson I learned, like, 1,000 things, and the 10th lesson I learned, like, 10 things.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
then at a certain point, after, like, 6 or 7 lessons, I was playing in tournaments and he started helping me prep for tournaments. And this is a whole new
Mm.
world. And I'm getting huge mind blowing, like how to prepare a series, like
Mhm.
how to scout your opponent. Like, I mean, I'm by scouting, I mean like research your opponent and like
Mhm.
how to, like prepare different builds for the tournament. And that
Right.
was like amazingly helpful, even though the lessons where we were going over my ladder games weren't as helpful anymore.
Mhm.
We just found something new.
Yeah. 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 Interesting. Okay, so I guess the difference between your experience and mine there in terms of the emotional piece is like you were paying money, these guys were doing it out of the goodness of their own hearts. So it's hard for them to be like, I don't know what to do with you anymore. We're stuck. And it's hard for
Mhm.
me to be like, all right, well, I guess we've gotten what we can get kind of thing.
Yeah,
Um
they're not my friends, right? So it's a little bit
mm,
different. I mean, I
mhm,
feel like
mhm.
me and Risky, we got a good relationship now. We still talk,
Yeah. Mhm.
but like we weren't friends going into it, so there wasn't that like weird
Yeah, yeah,
dynamic.
yeah.
I thought, yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I like that. I feel like that the idea of getting multiple perspectives is a good one, right? Because like even, I could go out and I could pay somebody to coach me probably, and then even like take it back and like I still have these GMs who are my friends, right? You're like, hey, this person told me this. I think it was really insightful. I do think it's a weakness in my play. Can you help me work on it? And then maybe you do like a second pass where it's like I actually kind of did this a bit with one of my viewers who had gotten some coaching from Pig where it's like she's
Hmm.
working on what she's working on and Pig is in charge of her. I'm at best a sous chef pitching in here and there little bits and pieces, right? But I feel like if somebody can take that role, it can be really helpful because it's like, well, all right, you're only getting your big expensive lesson with Pig every month or whatever it is. And in between there, you're gonna hit some weird stuff, right? Like you're in silver, you've never like seen a ghost drop a nuke on you before. Somebody to answer questions about that is useful to have around, you know?
Hmm.
So I feel like that maybe often or rather easily could scale into being a diamond, and like somebody who is not your buddy coach, right? Who's like just a paid coach can maybe unearth something. So that's kind of an interesting thing.
Hmm.
Oh man, I blabbed a lot in this interview, probably more than I should have for all the things that I wanted to pull out of you. Um, do you have a couple minutes to do some of the fun ones, the rapid fire, like just fun stuff?
Yeah. Well, actually, there is one little topic I wanted to debate
Let's
you
do it.
on
Let's do it.
because
Let's do it.
I have a reverse philosophy as you on this
Oh,
one.
come at
I
me.
think.
Let's battle.
Okay, the F equals MA interview.
Yeah.
You guys were talking about how like, and I think you were on his side. He doesn't metagame people, right?
Okay. Okay.
Because he wants like consistent practice and he wants to be good at being able to react to whatever he's seeing
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to like blindly countering someone.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You follow this philosophy?
Let me think about it. Actually.
Like I think his argument was it's better practice to not metagame people and just
Okay. What context are we talking? Are we talking about in a tournament? Or are we talking about a ladder?
ladder game.
Hmm.
You should just pretend like blank slate every game, react to what you scout, not what you already know about them. So like he was saying he has a lot of respect for people who don't like 12 pool his cannon rushes
I see.
and who try to defend it with hatch first and get because you're never going to know when you're going to get cannon rushed. So if you're
Right.
good at the hatch first defense, you're going to be better at defending them.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I think in that, I don't remember exactly what I said to F equals MA. I often try to take the stance of like, let me just understand why the person I'm talking to thinks the way they think, right? And I often will not even form an opinion because like obviously I haven't thought about this because I don't have a good answer for you. Um, but okay, like I'll take I'll take his side of it just so we can have an argument because I think it'll be interesting. But I think my answer is I might find it difficult to turn off that piece of my brain that knows that. And I think when I've competed seriously in other things in the past, like Magic, which is I'm much higher level at than StarCraft,
Mhm.
I've always used that information.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That's like, I think that's my approach is like complete opposite to whatever he's doing in the
Hmm.
sense that I feel like I metagame almost harder than anyone I know.
Okay.
Where like, if I've only played you one time, I'm going to counter whatever you did the first time
Interesting.
hard.
Yeah.
And then if you don't do it, I'm going to lose. And then so like the more times I play against someone, the better I get. And
Yeah.
it, and you end up like with this, like, I, if you're, I don't know, I like the approach in the sense that like the more you play against someone, the better you get against them until to the point where you're like you're really good against them. So I end up with this. Probably my biggest weakness is I lose to pretty much every strategy I see for the first time,
Mm.
every time, and
Yes.
it's because I never trained that skill because
Hmm.
I'm metagaming everybody. But on the other end of the spectrum, it's like if I meet someone in a tournament and I've played them 10 times, I'm probably going to win
Hmm.
because I know exactly how they play. And then I know, let's say you never metagame people when you're practicing,
Hmm.
and then you know what they're going to do. And then you go into a tournament and you're like, I have an idea of what you're going to do, and I'm going to metagame you. But you don't know how your metagame is going to work.
Yeah, you haven't practiced it, right?
Right.
Mm.
So, like, I don't know. Like, you know who Rocker is?
I'm not familiar. No.
He's like a 5800 Protoss.
Okay.
And so, like, for example, like, here's my catalog on like Rocker. I know that Rocker goes Nexus first, Forge Gate. I know
Hmm.
that he's going to cannon rush me if I go hatch first. If I go pool first, he won't. If he's cannon rushing, the pylon goes down at 142. From there, he goes ninja base. If you scout the ninja, he's going to go quick third at his fourth with mass static defense. And then he goes Blink Stalker, Archon Immortal.
Okay.
This is what I know about Rocker.
Yeah.
And I've played against him a bunch of times and I've tried 100 different things. And my win rate's slowly getting better. He's way
Mm.
better than me, right? He's
Hmm.
5,800.
Yeah.
But I win more than I should
Hmm.
against the 5,800.
Hmm.
So, like, I don't know. That's my approach. And I feel like it helps me a lot in tournaments and stuff. And yeah, I don't.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So let me try to frame this, right? So as I actually do have an opinion here now that I've listened to you talk about it a little
Right.
bit. I feel like there is a tension here. And actually this tension exists in other things. Like this, I'm actually thinking of this more in terms of my professional life as a software guy. There is a tension between what works right now. Literally, here we are in real life, and I'm in combat with this person, right? How can I make sure I walk away and they don't, kind of thing, right?
Mhm.
And then there's also what is the academically perfect theoretical way that this should go, right? And so your school of thought is like the dirty, gritty, like, let's just get this done right now version. And then the other school of thought is like, okay, yeah, sure, but maybe I don't care as much about this game. I care about, the next thing or whatever. I care about what's theoretically perfect. I'm chasing that, right? And so there's an interesting thing because, like, if you do the academically perfect thing forever, you never did it for real, right?
Mhm.
And then also, if I'm always reacting to, what do I know about this opponent? What little edges can I get or whatever? There's that problem that you said earlier of like things I've never seen for the first or things I'm seeing for the first time. I don't have a strong understanding because like, what do I map that onto, right? Like, and
Yeah.
I'm you in this one. Like for me, if I see some shit for the first time, I'm losing, like almost guaranteed. If I ever don't, that's like YouTube highlight material. If I ever
Yeah.
win anything that I saw for the first time, kind of thing, because I get so happy, right? Um, Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think my approach would be so like the academic would you say like the academically perfect players like Cyril? Like he spent forever struggling as like a low tier pro because he
Mm-hmm.
refused to play anything but the optimal way, right? And he would just like there would be one chink in the armor and he'd die. That's my memory of like 2016 Cyril.
Yeah, I
And
think
then
of
eventually
players.
you do it long enough and he's the perfect player,
Yeah, I think of
right?
players like that, or I think of players who play totally like intuitively and reactively. Like an M Canning would be a good example of this, where it's like, I mean, he has stylistic things. Like he likes disruptors. Everybody knows he likes disruptors, right? But most of the time, I'll watch him. He's talking to chat. First of all, he's playing the game looking at this monitor and not this one
Yeah.
somehow, right? Like, and he's just like, oh, okay, opponent's doing this. I'm gonna go carriers. Okay, opponent's doing this. I played him last game. I'm cannon rushing now. Okay, now I'm gonna adapt all that. It's just totally like figuring it out like as he's going, which is almost like totally the opposite of how I think about the game. And it's brutal because I like watching him, but it totally doesn't map to the way that I think about the game. So it's like, ah, shit. How do I can't even learn from you? Like it's just I'm a preparation guy or a refinement guy. It's like I want
Yeah.
to think about how did it go last time? What do I want to do this time? Okay, that
Yeah.
didn't work. What am I going to do next time? And I'll think about it in the shower for the next 7 days until I have an answer, kind of thing.
Yeah. That's my approach too. And I think it fits in because like the way I learn is through trial and error,
Mm,
specifically like purposely doing things that are terrible just to see what happens. I'm a
mm,
very visual learner. I could think about it in my head. I do this attack at this timing, it shouldn't work, but I need to actually see it not work to be like actually convinced it won't.
mm-hmm,
So I think this like preparation slash like metagaming everybody plus trial and error because you're constantly changing what you're doing in the moment
mm-hmm.
kind of works together as a good learning style. I think this learning style would be terrible at like a high pro level because they do so much prep work in their tournaments that you're gonna
Mm,
see new shit every time.
yeah.
But I'm not at that level. At my level, like when I go into a tournament and I'm playing, so for example, I played in NA Apprentice,
Mhm.
and in my groups, I knew exactly what every person was gonna do, pretty
Yeah.
much. And I made it. I was the bottom seed in the entire tournament, and I made it out of my group that was filled with like, okay, well, I lost a future, but I lost 2-1, and then
Wow.
I beat Riser and I beat Kozan, who were both
Mhm.
like 5,800 at the time,
Yeah.
because
Wow.
I know exactly how they're playing, and I was able to like, I'm so practiced at metagaming people, and they played their standard styles because they're
Sure.
not pros. They don't have a wide array of builds. They're just going to
Mhm.
use whatever they know. So at my level, I think it works.
Yeah.
But if I was a pro, I don't think I could be a pro because I can't adapt super well on the fly.
Ah, that's so interesting. Yeah, and it's interesting too because like you're actually like the correct thing for them to do is to be like, oh, I'm so many MMR higher than this person. I'll just do my normal stuff. I don't need to get cute here. Let me just do what I'm good at. And so you're almost like preying on them making the correct decision,
No,
right? Because like
exactly. That's
what should they do? They have to play what they know, right? Like they're
yeah,
better than you are, and so
yeah.
then you get to drop the hammer on them. That's so
I'm
cool.
ready for this. I'm ready
Yeah.
for what you're good at.
Oh man, that's so fun. I actually really like that as a style. I feel like it's like kind of exciting in that way.
Yeah, I've lost some very embarrassing games to people who played how I didn't think they were going to play.
Uh
You
huh.
know, like I don't know. For example, like Angry Kimchi. He's like a guy around my level, a little bit better than me. He
Mhm.
goes 2 base all in every single game.
Yeah.
I played him last week. He did a BC opener. I died to the BC. Like the
Yep.
first BC. It's like
Yeah.
he's never done this before. I played him 50 times. This is the first time he's done this.
Oh man. So okay, one last thing that I want to touch on this subject, and I know we're over time, so I'm sorry. I'll try to make it quick.
It's all good.
You clearly have like an amazing mind for this in terms of just your ability to recall this much about this many people, right? Like, and I guess I know it gets easier at GM because you're seeing a lot of the same people over and over, but like, how do you do that? Are you good at this in the rest of your life? Like, did you have an easy time like tests and stuff, like memorizing things?
Yeah, like I'm kind of playing to my strengths in that sense that
Mm-hmm.
in school, the thing I was best at was memorizing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I was always really good at the sciences and the maths.
Mm-hmm.
Like at least in high school, the math isn't like so complex. It's literally if you can memorize the formula, you're good at the math.
Right. Yeah.
Same thing with the science. Like you memorize all the different bones in the body, and that's always what I've been really good at.
Mm-hmm.
Just and then so like I struggled a little bit in like English and stuff. They're like compose a fictional piece. It's like I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm kind of playing to my strengths in that sense.
Interesting. Okay. Huh. Well, there's no secret there, folks. Just got to be born good at it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean you can train your memory too,
Yeah.
or take a
That's
different approach to it. I don't know,
Yeah,
but
play to your strengths, I guess would be the lesson there, right?
yeah,
Very cool, man. Well, let's promote some stuff. I mean, you're definitely in a spot in your life where growing your stream, growing your YouTube is going to be a big difference, sounds like, in your life. So obviously we want to get those links out. I can find them. Anything else that you're doing that's, exciting that people should be supporting or hyped up about or any of that kind of thing?
no, it's just streaming right now. I wish I had been able to complete a YouTube video for this, but yeah, it's just the same name on every website: wAesoph, Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. It's all the same,
Mhm.
and streaming every day, trying to at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Go hang out in his chat, and after a couple hours, you might get a 2v2 if you're lucky. Maybe a 4v4.
If you want it, yeah, and if you want a 1v1, bring it. I love it when the viewers
1v1
challenge me
him
to 1v1.
IRL.
That's my favorite. Challenge me.
That's so fun, man. I feel like you have a really cool atmosphere in your stream, and you're definitely somebody people need to be checking out if they haven't. Yeah, thank you very much. This has been so enlightening for me. I'm actually like really inspired. I need to like go listen back to everything that you just said and really internalize it because I feel like you think about improving in a very similar way to me. And you said some stuff that I used to say and I used to do. And I've been off my game with it. I've just been kind of like playing and like hoping good stuff would happen. Like that's not the way, it's not what I
Well, I
should be
mean,
doing. So
I'm presenting the best version of myself, but in reality, I'm
sure.
not doing everything else. I need to go back to it too. Like I'm in reality, I'm mostly just grinding mindlessly. But
Mm,
you know,
yeah. Well, either way, man, I appreciate it because this has been, I think, actually really good for my development, like in terms of getting me thinking about some of these things again. So thank you again for taking the time. This has been really, really cool. And anybody who came in late, we will, get a VOD on YouTube of this. You can of course watch the Twitch VOD as well. And please, give our give our man here a follow. If you're not, like, what's wrong with you, chat? Anger, upset. Please fix it. You are not following ASAP. And yeah, man, I'm gonna hide you behind a BRB screen. And
sounds good.
yeah, thank you.
Thanks for
And
having me.
really appreciate it. Anything else you want to say to the people?
No, I'm good.
All right, take care, man.
All right, see ya.